Hi everyone, this is John with the Abata Solutions team, back for our final video teaching you how to produce the fixed asset depreciation schedule using Alteryx. To begin, open the workflow where we left off. To answer questions 3 through 7, we are going to use a few additional tools to our workflow. To start, navigate to the Preparation tab and drop another filter tool onto the menu. Connect the Select tool that we previously built to this filter tool. The filter tool will let us filter data based on specific criteria. We are going to choose asset ID, and we want to know when asset ID equals entity 1 1-1128, as that is the asset we're curious about in our problem set. If we look, we now have a table of each year in the estimated life of this asset, and all 8 recovery periods are included for this particular asset, as well as all of the various information that we calculated earlier in our workflow, but we want to go a little farther to get specific information on a particular year. So drag another filter tool and connect it to the T or True tab of our previous filter tool. This time we're going to choose tax year, and we're going to set it for when tax year equals 2003. If we run the workflow and click the T tab again, we will see the true when those two are in fact equal, and this is the row of data providing us all of the information for that particular year. If we look, current year depreciation is 72.55. We can then write this answer to another Excel sheet in our workbook that we've created. I'm going to click on the tool and just Control C and then Control V to copy and paste it and drag it down and connect it to the T tab of the filter tool. I'm going to go to Files, select a file again. Again, I'm going to write it to the test file I've created. I'm going to choose Yes on the Replace, and I'm going to name the sheet Question 3. You should be writing it to the output file that we created in the dataset that you can download. Again, navigate to the top window and choose a Block Until Finished tool and drag it in between the last filter tool and the input so that we don't run into any issues where Alteryx is trying to write to multiple tools at the same time. Just to show you, I'm going to go back to the screen. I'm going to open up my Excel file, and you'll see that now we have questions 1, 2, and 3 answered in there, and we have all of the information for asset 1128 in entity 1, including the current year depreciation. Now we're going to work on question 4 of the problem set. In order to use question 4, I'm going to again use the filter tool. You'll see the filter tool is used for most of these questions, as it's really good at filtering out specific information which these questions are asking for. Again, connected to the output anchor of the select tool. This time we are going to use a custom filter, which is going to have 2 formulas at once, whereas the previous one we split it into 2 tools. This time I'm just going to show you how you can do 2 steps in a single formula tool. Here we are going to make our formula of entity equals, and then you're going to want to use quotes when you use the entity number here. We're going to use entity 1, and this identifies it as a string data type, and that'll allow Alteryx to search it. And tax year equals 2018. Apologies, I had to look at the problem set to see what we were looking for. I'm going to run the workflow here. You don't have to yet at this step if you don't want. But if we go to the True tab, we're going to see all of the relevant information for tax year 2018 related to entity 1. So this is all assets in entity 1 that exist or being depreciated in year 2018. We'll navigate back to the Transform tool and go to the Summarize tool, which again is sort of like a pivot table in Excel. We're going to go to current year depreciation, and we're going to choose to sum the current year depreciation so we can find the total current year depreciation for entity 1 in tax year 2018. And here it is. This is our total. It looks like a little over 8 million. I'm going to add in some additional information here too. We're going to group by entity, and we're going to group by tax year just so those show up in the output that we push out. It's not needed. We already know this is the right answer, but we want it all together just so that way when somebody sees it, somebody besides you looks at it, they understand what they're looking at. I'm going to move them around to reorganize in a way I like. You don't have to, but as you can see, you click the arrows to do that. If I run the workflow, now we're getting pushed out the tax year, the entity, and the cumulative current year depreciation. Once again, I'm just going to copy the block until done and the output tool, and you can do that by highlighting the two of them, Control C, Control V, drag it down here, connect the output anchor of the summarize tool to these tools. Again, we'll change this a little bit, so that way we would change that one so that it wrote to a new sheet. We would name that sheet question 4 because this is the answer to question 4. Now we're going to go on with question 5. We're going to drag another filter tool. Again, we're going to connect it to the output anchor of our sort tool. We're going to select column to answer question 5. We're going to use tax year equals. You can see if we click it in the basic filter, it actually starts populating in the custom filter, which is nice. We're going to choose tax year equals 2020 for this one. I'm going to then go to the transform. I'm going to drop a summarize tool again, connected to the T anchor because that'll be all the results in which the tax year does equal 2020. We're going to group by tax year. We're also going to group by entity. We're going to navigate to current year depreciation, and we're going to summarize the current year depreciation. So we will get a list of all the current year depreciation in tax year 2020 for each individual entity in our list. Now right here, this would be enough to answer the question already. You can figure this out yourself, but just to make it a little clearer, we're going to go back to the preparation tab, and we're going to choose the sort tool. We're going to drag it on the canvas, connect it, and we are going to sort by sum of current year depreciation. And we're going to change this to descending, so that way the largest appears first. If I do that, I'll run the workflow once again, and I'll click my output anchor, and now we can see entity 4 had the most current year depreciation in tax year 2020. Once again, you would want to drop the block until done tools here and an output data tool, create a new sheet, so that way you can write it into the workbook as we did for all the previous ones. Now, to answer the next question, since we're already dealing with tax year 2020 in this previous filter tool, we're just going to connect directly to that filter tool instead of going back to the select tool. You could go back to the select tool if you want and create a new filter tool and filter by 2020, but I don't think there's a need to. This is just a little easier. So we're going to copy this summarize tool, Control C again, Control V, and connect another summarize tool to the true tab from the filter tool. This time though, we don't need the entity number, so we're going to remove it. We'll click run. And here we can see the sum for the entire company's current year depreciation for the year 2020. This adds up all the 4 previous entities because we don't need to group by all of the entities. We did not group by all the entities to split it out. Again, you're going to want to you're going to copy the block until done and output data tool to that one, create a new sheet in your workbook, and then run the workflow one final time here, and we will have created a new Excel sheet which has all of the data. And that concludes our series on producing a fixed asset depreciation schedule using Alteryx. Thank you, and have a great day.